morning. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann. 80% Ann today, I think. 80% Ann. Sorry for the delay in starting, everybody. It's been like that lately. And then we've got our Disembodied Hands Quindy, which will shortly become our spooky Disembodied Hands Quindy, because it's almost October. Almost Halloween season. Yeah, it's cold here also, which is why I'm sitting here. 80% Ann. Yes, 80% Ann. I'm inching my way back to 100%. Let's fingers crossed here. Yes, Quindy loves spooky Quindy. Indeedy. I'm wondering. I need to get more. I need to hit up Ron because he said he would send me those Halloween model, and he hasn't yet. So I have to poke the Ron. Poke. You can't just let the Ron just coast because he'll never remember. How are you all today? I feel like I could use another day of really good sleep and maybe I'd be close to 90%. Whew. We are going to work on Mr. Damras today. And we're going to work on the back, yeah, because we're looking, our front's looking pretty snaz with that gold, but it's not perking up on the back yet because we haven't tackled it. Let me see just what we got to go here. So I didn't get all of the gold on this side done. I guess we'll be doing gold today. We'll be blinging up, and then we'll be coming back here to do a little bit of the gold. This will start looking much better once we've got that together. There we are. Oh, bummer, Kerniko. Ah, got you, Quindy. Nice ghost emoji, green users. That's okay. So we will give because we were giving John, higher percentages. We'll give Justin more % too because he listened to your complaining. We will behave. Yes, we will behave. Mostly because Anne doesn't have the energy to misbehave right now. So sad, so true. All right, so yeah, let's get some nums. Those non-metallic metal, yeah, that stuff. Let's get that going on. We've got some interesting shapes over here to tackle for it, and yeah, cool. And the hat, of course. I have to not forget the hat because the hat will be a circle, and that will be more interesting. Let's see here. I've got lamp. Just checking that I've got all lamps functional. No more chili dog. No, I've been watching Bake Off, so I'm getting in a baking mood because that's what happens when you watch the Great British Baking Show. Who knew that the entire world would get fascinated with British people baking, huh? I'm gonna throw, let's see, I don't even remember what I used last time. I think I was using sunlight. Candlelight, that's what I was using. Oh, we're on the second one. I think they started almost concurrent with you guys, maybe, Go. I don't know. But I really liked the Showstopper challenge on the second episode. It was a cool idea. And so far, nobody I really like has left, so that's always a good sign, too. Yeah, we get them Friday. So they get it a few days before us. That makes sense. All right. Ah, that's a bubble. I don't want that. So I am doing my mixes to create a nice gold mix. So rich leather. We're using candlelight because we want a nice saturated yellow for this guy because he's pretty bright. And then one drop of candlelight, we're going to put some pure white on that. Not saying any spoilers. I just said nobody I liked got sent home. No, I didn't know there was a Halloween baking championship. Is it on Netflix, Kodiak? You have to tell me where it is because I'm always looking for a new baking thing to watch or a new cooking thing to watch. So is it on a... Baking shows are the new something. Baking shows are the new awesome. I don't know if we have Food Network. So Halloween Baking Championship, huh? Let me make a note. Because David and I have been going to bed earlier because of the puppy. Halloween. I don't know if we have... Oh, I don't know if we have Discovery Plus. I don't know. We'll have to look. Championship. 1 second while I write this down. On Food Network. Yeah, we'll see. I actually like Food Network, so maybe if we don't have it, maybe David could be persuaded to add it to our monthly expenditures. Yeah, it's just that we don't really like, a lot of the kind of like tertiary ways to get shows, we're not really, either we don't like the production values or we, are just not willing to go outside of our usual ecosystem. So I'll take a look into just getting Food Network. Oh, interesting. French version of fake out. Photorealistic severed body parts made of cake. Oh, this sounds like right up my alley. That sounds really awesome. The French would push it. The French took the British baking show and went, this is cute and quaint, but we can make it like way, way uncomfortable. So I'm going to mix up my colors. You want a pale buttery yellow, no matter what you're doing with non-metallic metal gold. And then you want a color that's going to approximate a yellow ochre. This is the color of yellow ochre, but it doesn't actually use yellow ochre. It's a little bit more saturated as far as that goes. And I may want it a little lighter. And then this one's our mid-tone is rich leather with just a brush full of the previous color in it. And then I was using, I was on my, I believe it was russet brown plus a little bit of my rogue shadow. Oh, okay. $6.99 a month add-on. Maybe David will do it just for the baking shows for me if I ask very nicely. Because we're using his Prime account. Let me make a note. Making a note. It's important. This is important. It's important enough to disrupt painting. $6.99 add-on. Because frankly, I don't know, he might already have it, but considering how I love food shows, it's amazing that I didn't think about like actually looking at Food Network's latest programming, because I just haven't. I kind of fell out. I used to always watch Food Network because I loved Alton Brown and Iron Chef. Somebody used 3 drops of russet brown, 1 drop of the rogue shadow. You can also use brown liner. Rogue shadow and brown liner are in many cases exchangeable, easily exchangeable. There are differences, however. Rogue shadow having more coverage and more of a reddish tone to it. The Halloween baking show on Food Network is about that. Yeah, it's cool. We will give it a try. We're picky about our reality shows because I'm not a fan of like all of them, but usually the cooking ones are pretty cool. Where is my mixing brush? There it is. Now I want to thin down the shadow quite a bit because, like I mentioned, the rogue shadow has slightly higher coverage and the russet brown has good coverage too. I want to be able to blend this, so I'm going to do at least a 4:2 paint to water. Yeah, I'm an Alton fan. He's I learned a lot about general cooking and baking from his books and shows. Yeah, actually, is Reaper John on? Are you lurking, John? Like, is the Reaper Challenge League doing any fun Halloween stuff coming up? I wonder. Hope so. And remember, October is your month to get breast cancer awareness pink. If we're still doing that, which I wouldn't know why we wouldn't, unless somebody forgot. So hopefully there'll be that, and there'll be ghoulie bags. Just mixing up my my pentad, i.e. succession of 5 paints instead of a triad. You could still call it a triad. Like, if I were creating this as a traditional triad, which I almost have, then the triad would be the middle. Because as far as I was concerned when I was making triads, the thing is you can always, like, there's always white. Like, you don't need to put out another off-white with every triad. And usually you're just looking for a darker version of whatever color for the shadow. And you can't just make a ton of dark blues that are all different enough to make a sense. So that's why a lot of our triads are more of a mid-range, because I assume that you can pick a darker color off the end, and I assume that you can pick a white or off-white on the top end. So that's just a little bit of like how I created paint line and why this, why that. We normally, like, we binge watched like all the past seasons once David introduced me to it during the pandemic. We totally did do the binge watch, Turgeon. But I love this show enough that, and we don't have a lot of time before bed, so usually it takes us 2 nights to watch each episode. So I don't mind. I don't find it terribly tense. I'm actually just kind of happy when my favorite people make it through and they haven't been eliminated yet. So I'm okay giving them that extra 5 days of existing before I see the next episode. Even though that's, kind of deceptive. I did not get to the white highlights on this top gem socket. So I'm going to pop those up there to bring up some highlights. Let's get closer. Non-metallic metal is always something you have to get close for. So the side here. With round things, you're essentially highlighting 4 quadrants, because you'll essentially have a reflection off the top edge, but you also have like light reflecting and falling off here. So you've kind of got a highlight and a highlight, and you would normally have a highlight here, but the beard overshadows it, so we don't put that in. Then you've got the under reflection down here, so you get a little bit of a tertiary highlight on that to show reflected light. You don't want to ever take that up to pure white. It's never as bright as your top highlight. I usually do a little bit brighter, just mixing my pure white with my previous highlight, just for that center, just to bring it up like so. And that creates more of the round. So let's see here. Same thing up here on top of the head. As we look at him, we can see that the light is definitely going to be hitting here. The way I've painted things in general, it's coming top down, but that means this side is tilted more toward the light and this side is more falling away. So we're going to generalize and do a little bit stylistic here, because technically, much of the rim would be, it's not a straight like circle, flat circle up and down like that, but we're going to paint it similarly. Some of non-metallic metal is in using tools just to generalize and to stylistic, to do something that's stylistic that looks good and looks right, even if technically in real life it would not be. We're going to general highlight the top half of this circle. Using both my middle yellow ochre color and my buttery yellow color. Hey, GVD Minis, thank you for the resub, 28 months. That's up there. You've been watching us paint things for over 2 years. That's impressive. Also, sorry for the coughs and stuff today. I realized Puppy has always had a fan on her at night, but now it's getting cold. And I realized I was getting a sore throat at night because the fan was also blowing on me because the puppy's on my side of the bed. So I had to actually redirect Puppy's fan last night, but I still feel like I've got a bit of a sore throat going on this morning. All right, so you highlight that top edge. You can see that that is lighter then the bottom edge. Now we're going to put a bit of shadow. I want to put my breakpoints in here. So right about there, I am going to add in some shadow. Kind of spaced out evenly on either side. Then I'm going to bring in just my yellow ochre, not my buttery yellow. I'm going to bring that in a little bit down here. Not yet anyway, not buttery yellow yet. So you can see that kind of break there. Now we don't have a lot of room to do this, so you may find you need to go back in with your rich leather a little bit to get that golden feel back, because it's easy to lose it when you start highlighting, but that rich leather glaze right there brings that nice gold color back in and helps to blend in that shadow too. So now I'm going to grab my buttery yellow and my white, aiming for a stronger, this is just the buttery yellow, this isn't even the pure white yet. Stronger highlight here, here, and here. Then a little bit on the bottom. And on the bottom, that's the brightest the highlight will go. It's a little lopsided here, so I'm going to fix that. The puppy was a devil yesterday, by the way, but she's hopefully, she seems to be a little bit more even-keeled today. She still has her Cerberus days. All right, bright white highlight. Oh, I just heard a yite. 1 second, must investigate. I wonder if she pinched part of herself. Oh, you okay? You okay, Bob? What happened? You okay? I cannot see what happened, but there was a little tiny yipe, so I went to investigate. She appears to be fine, though. All right, so back to this. Real bright. Keep your white highlights very small on something like this. There we go. Shiny. Excellent. All right, top part and then the bottom parts, we're just going to move real fast through this. Well, relatively real fast. The thing is that sometimes she'll like extend her feet and she'll like stick them through the bars of the crate because they're still small enough that she can do that. Since she's in a big dog crate, but just with a barrier to section it off and make it smaller. And sometimes I think she'll maybe wake up or turn and she'll like get her paw caught a little bit. I haven't ever seen it, but that would be my guess, because otherwise there's not anything she can really get stuck in. The crates are pretty safe. Yes, she's a little bit of a diva sometimes. I need to remember to load up a snuffle matter, some things for her to keep her busy later so that I can have sanity points at the end of the day. This is the first day that David went back to work, and leaving me alone with the dingo. My energy level's okay today, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be exhausted by the end of the day. I feel a little bit of a diva. All right, let's get some of this stuff figured out here. And I believe I was doing kind of ripply stuff over here. Yeah, doing a couple of different darks and lights on the way that went down. So I'm going to consider doing that a little bit here, dark and dark maybe, and light and light. Because I like the doing spaced out effects like this, and when you can match it to folds, that's great. But if you, and there are some folds here, so I can imply that that's the case, but if you can alternate light and darks on cloth, it does make it look more rippling and fine, as opposed to coarse or thick. Let's get some. Any clippers, actually, honestly, if you are using them for metal minis, I would get just a wire cutter. Any hobby clippers is only graded up to a certain level of tension. And what happens when you use hobby clippers, even good ones for metal, is you will get little dents in the blade. You may even get shear where a piece of the clippers comes off. I would honestly, these days, back in the olden days, the answer would have been sure, because there was a high lead content. So, you know, a long time ago, sure, everybody was using regular hobby clippers for metal models. But now, metal models are mostly tin, which makes them immensely hard. Most hobby clippers are only rated for brass rod. Like, that's as hard as you get, and tin is much harder than that. So I honestly would just get a good pair of sharp wire cutters, smaller wire cutters, and I would use that. Got a bit dark there. I'm going to have to grab my middle color, my ochre color, and smooth that in. But yeah, I mean, the GW cutters are obviously, because they do mostly plastic now. That went a little bit too light. But the GW hobby cutters are meant for styrene. So they're meant for soft stuff. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like and like I said, in the olden days, I'm gonna get some rogue shadow. I need a liner to tighten up some of this outside stuff. But yeah, in the olden days, when minis were much softer, you absolutely saw all of us using our hobby clippers for metal. But now that'll just break your clippers. So yeah, highly recommend that you do not use your hobby clippers for metal. Tin is just really hard. Heck, I used to be able to use a jeweler's saw for metal minis, and now I feel like I just can't. Yeah, but there were so many snapped ankles with that too, Miss Dim. Like there were pluses, and also the lead expanded in the mold, so it also meant fewer mold lines. I don't know if you guys knew that. But if you think that today's models are annoyingly mold line ridden, it's partially that. It's that back when minis had more lead in them, the lead actually expanded in the mold, and that would minimize some of the mold line issues. That's what I was told. But yeah, just better not to have all that toxic metal around, right? I mean, the confrontation models I still have are higher lead content. But even though that means, as I said, like fewer, sometimes fewer casting issues, it also means that I've had horses snap off at the ankles way too many times. Worse than they used to be with lead, yes. I mean, there's still plenty of minis that are not too bad for mold lines. I mean, it all depends on the QC department and whether they catch everything. But I mean, even the best QC department won't catch 100%. That's why Reaper's got a return policy, among other things. All right, so I needed to tighten up that. You see, I put that dark line right up there. That's a little bit of a wobbly cast there, so I'm going to just paint plastic surgery it and neaten it up. But yes, if you noticed that mold lines today seem much more prevalent than they did in the bad old days, it's partially because with the lead content that would disguise the problem. Personally, I like resin. And plastic is making strides as they figure out more clever ways to put things together. And Games Workshop really are like cutting edge on that as far as like creating cool compositions and then finding ways to make the model go together so that you get a lot of open space and a lot less fill. It's because Jim is very much a traditionalist dogfather. Dark Sword, well, there's two reasons that probably, okay, and I don't know this for sure, but in my opinion, Jim is he runs Dark Sword because he has a nostalgia for the early days of miniatures. I think that's part of it is because metal, you know, when you want that feel in your hand, that heavy feel of a metal model, it's, there's nothing else on the market that you can use. He also has a very good relationship with his casting company. I think he goes through Ironwind, but I don't know that for sure. But he's got this long relationship with his metal caster, so that everything is dependable and he can do his new releases, on time. And so he's got that relationship. I don't know. A lot of companies are looking at going to Siocast, and I don't know if Jim will as well or if he'll stay metal. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought, Cranston. I knew they had. I'm so out of the loop lately that I wasn't sure if they still did. Right. I never like to present an item as fact if I don't have latest information because stuff changes in the industry all the time, right? And I am sometimes out of the loop. Yeah, a lot of people still prefer metal. I mean, a lot of times, if it's not Bones USA, I honestly prefer metal for a lot of these models. Like, I prefer Bones USA to metal, but if I have to choose, like, a traditional Bones or Bones Black versus the metal version, I will take the metal version any day to do on the stream. That's why we're still using metal models on the stream. That, and I want to show off the metal models, too. Want to promote all the Reaper lines. All right, so we're starting finally to creep our gold onto the other side, although I do need to not forget, I need to finish this side of the arm right here, and I need to finish the hats. There's bits of the hat and this, so let's not forget those parts. Yeah, exactly. I like scale creep too. I actually prefer a 40 millimeter and above, so have at, scale creep, have at. Since this little rivet is since the gold is so close in color to the hat, the orange, I'm actually going to paint in the rivet in my russet brown instead to make it stand out. You can also go ahead and do that with this bottom part here. And then I'm just going to highlight it with a pinpoint of the pale, like my buttery yellow. When you've got little tiny things like that, you can't do all the transition colors. You just got to pretty much put down a shadow to make it stand out, to outline it, and then hit it with the highlight. And I'm at very small areas is very generalized, very stylized. It's a little more than a shadow and a highlight. It's very minimalist. That side's pretty good. All right. They're considering it, Kerniko. I have that at unofficial. It's very unofficial. I spoke to somebody who said they were looking at it, but that person also said, Kerniko, that there was a large pushback in their fan base against going to Siocast. Like, from what I heard, and it may be true or it may not be true, but from this person at Adepticon, they had been looking at it because it would help in a lot of ways with their costs. But when they were talking about it with their audience was very negative about it. Their audience seems to be very into metal, very metal focused, and they love the metal. And so that's why they were hesitating. However, of course, you know, there's always, with the audience thing, there's always the vocal minority, right? So if they see sales go down too much, or that they feel like their company isn't sustainable, I can see Infinity going over anyway, in the hopes of actually capturing a majority market as opposed to the vocal minority. Like, because there does come a point where those models get so expensive in metal, and then you just close the door on a bunch of people who could be playing your game. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I heard. That's my gossip from Adepticon last year. Yeah, but the company itself is looking at Siocast, from the employee that I heard. I like to chat, even though I'm not like technically industry anymore. I do like to chat and pick up the gossip at the shows. And honestly, Infinity seemed like a natural to consider a Siocast, because it would allow them to keep that beautiful detail they have on their minis. David bought me another new model. He's been pampering me since I've been so sick. I'm not complaining. What kind of complaining? Because I want to paint it. He keeps getting me these beautiful new models. I keep wanting to put down my current project and work on the new model instead. This is the problem. He got me something from Hera Models. He's like, this is totally your vibe. And I opened it and I'm like, this is totally my vibe. My guy knows me. Yeah, David is so nice, guys. Like, you guys have, like, oh my god. Like, okay, having been married once before, and to a really good guy, right? But just wasn't quite right with us. But, oh my god, like, David is like the man, like, keeps mental track of my dietary things, and he actually checks food labels if he has to go to the store and impromptu grab something. Like, he actually looks, like, at the contents to make sure there's nothing. Like, he's just so freaking considerate. Like, it blows my freaking mind. And he has been invaluable with Kiki, handling Kiki over the past several days when I've been really, really sick and haven't even had an ounce of energy to spare. Like, seriously, there's a reason we are getting married next month. I'm getting this one. This one's locked down. I'm just lucky he went undiscovered for so long in the mini painting market, you know. Can't believe none of those other like mini painting women snapped him up. I'm just lucky. There we go. So now we got that nice. See how that white highlight just adds that shiny, that feel of shine. But yeah, he's been amazing just with the Keekster. He always surprises me. Like, I think that happens though, like when I'm so used to people being grossed out by dog stuff, or just like, you know, like, oh my god, I have to do this, you know, like so many different things could have gone wrong in the fact that he's never owned a dog before, but he's just taken it all in stride, picking up poop, no problem, you know, and he just loves her, like he adores her, even when she's being a dingo. Like he's got a lot more patience with her in some ways than I do. So like, he may not be a dog person, but he's totally a Kiki person now. But yeah, so he got me a pretty model. It's an Anubis kind of model, and I love Egyptian stuff, so I'm like, I may have to stop and paint this because Egyptian, pseudo-Egyptian, fantasy Egyptian. I'm thinking about adopting a Wapples method of painting, though. At least for the first bits. Like, I just get impatient with myself, especially now in the evening. A lot of times I can't paint. I need to watch the puppy with at least half an eyeball. That's funny, Kerniko. I think I remember him saying that. Ed is very perceptive. Like, never count Ed out, guys. Like there is a reason I pay Ed serious respect. Even though, you know, at times we argued and, you know, I would get frustrated, he would get frustrated with me, you know, just like employee relationships and employer relationships do. But he is he knows people. Ed knows people. He's a good judge of people. And he gets it. He's a good observer. And I think that's one of the reasons that Reaper remains like, you know, viable in the industry is Ed, because Ed knows people, he knows the industry because he knows the people in it. And so he has a good sense of like where he should go and where other people are going to go, right? He's just like cannot say good enough things about Ed. Yeah, it's a pretty model, Quindy. Eric Swinson did the blister paint job on it. But yeah, I'm just getting frustrated because I haven't had the painting time that I had in the past because I have to watch the pups during the evening. Because if I watch her, like if I kind of sit kind of canted toward her, then she'll be pretty good in the evening. But if I don't, then she's going to get up her paws on the side of her pen and she's going to bark at David while he plays WoW. Dad, stop raiding. Dad, get out of that dungeon. You don't need to kill that boss. I'm your boss. It's kind of funny, but it is really irritating and distracting. So, yeah. Oh, come on. That was pure comedy, Kritiko. He had the guts to do that on a live stream. That man has guts. No, Ed's a great guy. I think people underestimate Ed a bit, like when they first meet him. They get it in their head, like, kind of like what they think he is, and he's just like, I think that it surprises them when he shows a level of, like, empathy and perception and just canniness in general. They think he's this laid-back Texas guy, and they get, like, this picture in their head. It's not it at all. Yeah, it was a pirate ship. I mean, that's part of it, sure, but yeah, he's he and Dave and Ron have managed to keep Reaper afloat and prosperous. So, all things considered, I think it's good to have them at the helm. And when you've got good people running the company, you attract good people, you know, to the company. And so that's why we have talented people like John and Justin and all that. Because be sure, you know, from time to time working in the gaming industry gets super frustrating, super irritating, makes you jump up and down and want to rip your hair out. But no matter who you work for. But other than me, who got, you know, totally distracted by a David and lured out to California, Reaper does a pretty good job of keeping its good people. Comparatively to other companies, for sure, I think. A little bit of white there. Oh, right, there's also a big demon. Yeah, Ed's got painting chops. Like, he doesn't bring them out much, guys, but he does. Like, when he wants to bring it, he brings it, and then everybody's like, whoa, Ed can paint. And then he kind of, like, you know, goes back into the background for a while because he's got other stuff to do. Yeah, Ed's got chops. All respect. All right, let's get some of this stuff done. Got a lot of, we're getting a lot of our bling done. Like, our bling is looking pretty good on this side. Just got a little bit, this down here, that. So let's just get that figured out. Now, since I don't know what this little border here is, it's probably something coming off it's probably a belt thing coming down that I just can't see because this bag was sculpted over the top. I'm just going to put a little bit of a darker shadow behind it, though, to bring it out a little bit and isolate it from the tabard coming down here. And then we're going to get that highlighted. But yeah, so anyway, I was thinking I would adopt Wapple's approach. Throw a bunch of paint onto my wet palette and do some super speed blocking to try to get some color, just a base coat down, a blended base coat down on my models, and see if that improves my speed a bit. That I just think part of it is I'm just getting hung up because I don't have the time that I used to with the pupper. Until the pupper gets a little older, my painting time is severely impacted by the pupper. Alright, so here we're going to put a little bit of shadow here. Okay, so this is kind of flat, it's a little bit curved. I could paint this one of two ways. I could paint it flat, which is what I've actually blocked it in as, or I could paint it rounded. If I paint it rounded, I want my highlight to drop straight down the middle. If I paint it flat, then I want the highlight to be at the top and then a reflection at the bottom with that shadow in the middle. You could do it either way. The handle definitely has a rounded component though, so I probably should actually do it all round and just keep that down there. So let me go and remap that real quick. So I'm going to block out the highlight, or block out the shadow there. I'm going to keep the shadow going down the side here. Whenever you have a rounded surface, the light will drop straight down. Yeah, we've got a scroll here, but it's pretty much still going to get at least a bit of reflected light. It's going to still mimic that. And there is where I'm going to pull the stylistic card out and say, I want this to look right, even though there's a scroll above it. So I'm going to still paint it like I would normally paint it. only love is a match for the power of Reaper. Yeah, he's totally a cat mug. So a highlight straight down the middle. Now this part down here is a little different, but we'll stick to our guns on this and broaden this out a little bit. And then a little bit on the side here. It was Goose and Maverick after the Top Gun. They were sisters. They rescued them from a dumpster back when Ed was married. His now ex-wife Miriam rescued them from the dumpster outside of Reaper, and so they named them Goose and Maverick. And Miriam took Mav, and Ed got Goose. Bet you didn't know I could answer that piece of Reaper lore, huh? I was there. I was there for that part. That was early. There we go. There's our shiny. There we go. Now you can see how that brings out the shiny. I do like painting tiny NMM. Like David doesn't like doing little fiddly NMM like this, but I really do. I like the challenge of making it look reflective on a just a more interesting surface. I don't like big pieces of NMM as much. I like painting the little stuff and making it look good. But it just goes to show you can still create a very realistic look even on a 28 for some aspects. All right, now we're ready. Yeah, I love that Anubis model. It's got a really cool like bone collar on it. It's my favorite part of the mini. I like painting bones. A little bit of highlight, but not a whole lot back here. Just want to kind of bring it up. There. Now here I'm going to block in some shadows first, I think, on this part. And I do need to put a little bit more rich leather down to make sure I've got a nice solid base coat. You can see I'm missing some parts are a little bit lighter here. I want a nice solid base coat before I start tackling all this fine filigree. And after I've got the gold, I'll probably come back with my purple and tighten up some of this gold because I'm sure it'll get a little bit out of control at parts. But the purple has good enough coverage to go over it and tame it a bit. So that's why I'm not going to worry about, I'm not really worried if my gold goes over the edges and hits the purple right here. I know that I can touch that up pretty easily with the purple. And doing little fine freehand like this is just all about touch-ups. It's just like go in, get her done, touch it up, tighten it up. Yeah, happily the puppy is getting a little bit older, but she's still like, we're finally kind of getting into a bit of a routine, but I still feel like I've lost a lot of time in the evenings that I used to have to hobby. Just in keeping an eye on her. Hopefully as she gets older, she'll get like more calm in her. We have a pen for her, a playpen for her in the hobby room. And I can get more of my painting back. Going to come and line around the gold edge here because I didn't really have that nice dark line on the border, and I need that now to set it apart. I think I had it, but then I might have filled it in with purple. All right, it's looking okay. So now we'll get into it. So there are a couple different ways you can do fine detailing like this with NMM. Obviously, it's not going to be very realistic. We do have wrinkles and folds in this, and we can highlight in accordance with those folds. So if we're going to do that down here, we really need to do that on the NMM filigree itself. So I'm going to start by grabbing my russet brown and rogue liner mix, and I'm going to start by kind of figuring out, okay, there's a fold here, there's a fold there, and there's a fold there, and there's a fold here. So I've got 4 little dabs of dark there that are folds. And then I can pretty much just go straight up from there and kind of map in a little bit where each of these shadows would be, because you need to shade and highlight your filigree. Sorry. This is where we are a little better than World of Warcraft, because they don't really. Their capes are flat. And although I'm shading some of this stuff, it will be. I'll probably still pop a highlight here and there, but we'll see. But it can be difficult sometimes to see where the shadows and highlights are. I don't want to use my darkest shadow for this. I just want my mid shadow. Alright, now let's try to do this. So now, come back in with a little bit of a highlight, start mapping that in. I'm going to grab my ochre color, which is 50-50 rich leather and candlelight yellow. And kind of pay attention to where the fold is. The problem is I also have to make this look like metal, so I'm going to have to go back and figure it out. There might be some extra shadows and highlights that I have to pop in to get that feel. We'll see. That's a little bit. The folds get pretty tight up here, like it's kind of converging, so it's hard to show. I'll probably have to do several touch-ups. And while I'm at this, I need to figure out that this is a highlight. This is going to have highlight up here. Oh. It's going to have a highlight out here, highlight out here. And there technically is a double border here, so I need to also line this. You can see how tight the folds get. And that can be a lot harder than a big loose fold. This kind of thing would be a lot easier to do if it was big loose folds like this. One second. It would be ironic if Kiki's fan gave me a cold when David has been unable to give me any colds that he has had. I can't tell if it's allergies or not, so. Alrighty. I think I'm going to brush a little bit of my rich leather over all of this because my shadows are a bit dark for what they should be. These aren't really, really dark folds, or deep folds rather, so they shouldn't be super dark. So putting a layer of the rich leather over that evens that out. Yeah, David's had allergies too. But he's prone to, whereas my digestive system is my weak point, his is definitely his sinuses, so he gets a lot that hits him that way. Putting in a little bit of shadows here. Normally I could tell if it was a cold or allergies by whether I felt tired or not, but I've been tired for 5 weeks, so it's hard to judge. Just going to take advantage of this to set up the fact that there are two. Notice I'm only putting that liner shadow in the actual like shadowed spot where I put my russet brown. I'm not taking it down to these lower areas. I'm going to suggest the double border here, the fact that there's two strands. I'm going to suggest that more with highlights in the highlight areas and more with shadows in the shadow area. Oh, that totally blorfed that part. There. Yes, people without bird feeders can afford to take pleasure in squirrels. We also do not have bird feeders, though I have thought about getting one. But we don't have any good trees to put them, to hang one from out in our backyard. We would have to probably put it on our lemon tree in our side yard, our side patio. So I'm trying to get the border to first read, and then I'll carry that up. So doing the shadows and highlights there. Not final version, but at least blocked in. And then I can bring it up from there. So often with filigree, I will alternate light and dark, and I won't necessarily be basing it on the shape of the filigree necessarily. This is again where stylism rules over realism in many cases for me. Because I just need to be able to see that light coming down consistently. Oh, no, Harewood. That's going to take a long time. We do, we alternate every day on this show. We have a 6-model rotation, and so every day we work on a different model, and then it loops. So, yeah, dark skin guy is still dark skin guy because we work on a different model every day. So he is still in progress, and we will be working more on him and finishing his skin, and then probably starting on his hair next time we work on him, which will be, let's see. So today is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He'll be back Friday. Tomorrow is Mage Kitty and then Ghostwalker Girl the next day. But yeah, we do People do that all the time. They come on the stream and they're like, are you done with that dude you were working on the other day? And it's like, no. That dude is still in the progress that you saw him the other day. Because I don't want... we learned back in the day that when we were working on the same model from stream to stream, people got bored and wandered off. So this way, no matter when you tune in, there's something new and different going on. Also lets me teach different topics every day, instead of spending a lot of time on one model skin, for example, like especially with a big model like that. With the elemental scions, they're also very large. They're going to take a lot of time, and so having them in kind of an alternating groove makes sense. Because then I can still paint a bigger model on stream, but people don't get bored with it because they don't always have to just sit and watch me do skin tones for 3 streams. But yeah, I'm not a speed painter, so this allows me to kind of paint the way that I paint and maximize its utility for the stream, since I tend to be a slower painter. Maybe I'll do, since I was just talking about going Wapple on something, maybe I should do that on the Earth Scion or something. Big model, just grab the wet palette and go to town there. So that's coming up pretty decently. What I need to do is bring in more dark, like a dark shadow here. I kind of need a darker shadow just on my purple and everything at this point. All right, now I'm going to take liner. Take my liner, I'm going to thin it down, I'm going to do something. I'm going to try something. I'm going to kind of make a glaze. Glaze consistency is kind of like colored water, but a little stronger. That's a pretty strong glaze. It depends. Wet palette is something I very seldom reach for, to be honest, Harrywood. But yeah, I mean, I mix fine on my well, obviously. I mix all these colors. But if I'm trying to paint very fast and very loose, and I'm trying to force myself to do that, I find that I have to go apart from my well. Like, my well lets me tune my paint to exactly where I want it. So if I'm doing competition level painting for finishing work, for sure, I'm on the well palette. But the wet palette is a lot more organic, and it does force me to, like, just kind of go. Like, it encourages me to break my usual style of painting. And I've got so many models that I would love to paint right now, and my painting time is less because I have a new puppy. So she's very distracting, and she needs a lot of attention, and so my painting time's been impacted. So I was just thinking maybe I should speed some stuff with the wet palette. So let's just put, that might be still a little bit too strong. I want to essentially glaze these shadows in even over the purple. So let me see if I can do that. There. So what that dark brown with that rogue shadows let me do then is to glaze in the shadows on the purple too. Now I can always go back and highlight the purple. I'm going to wick off the excess here. We don't want that to pool. But it enables us to get more of a 3D appearance. But yeah, so I always encourage people to do both wet palette and well palette. Some people take naturally to the wet palette and they just love it, and a lot of people will do the opposite and take to the well. I feel that the well palette, when you're starting out, if you don't understand paint consistency very well yet, then the well palette is more useful because you can mix, 4-to-1, 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 1-to-1. And if you mix slightly deeper puddles and have smaller wells like I do in this palette, it'll keep your paint at the right consistency for quite a while, at least 45 minutes, and even longer if it's like moist and cool out, like it is around here these days. So I haven't even had to add any water to these guys to keep them at roughly the consistency I want. So once you then get acclimated to what you can do at different paint consistencies, and you know kind of what each ratio kind of looks like, and what ratios you need for different techniques, and what that feels like and what that looks like, you can go to the wet palette and you can just rule with it, because you're going to have that integral idea of paint consistency and what you need for each application. It's a little harder to do that just organically from the wet palette. But you can mix on either. I mean, I am pretty much a 99.9% well palette user, and I mix all my colors for the most part. But yeah, if you want to encourage yourself to try a more kind of free-form mixing experience, then yeah, the wet palette can totally do that for you. David was actually having trouble with his wet palette for the first time the other day because he was trying to do, he's painting a really big model, a journeyman model with a young woman, so he needs smooth skin tones, and he was getting issues because he couldn't control the amount of water that was wicking into the paint. Kodiak, I mean, play with it, because have fun, play with it, learn it, like see what's good, see what it's good at. But in general, it's better with thicker paint, bigger brush. And if you, and there's definitely like techniques that are better for that kind of application. But if you're trying to learn paint consistency and you're still trying to get control of your paint and things like that, and you're trying to learn how to work with much thinner applications, you can't mix really thin paint on a wet palette really easily. You can on a well. So that's, you know, like I said, you should always try both. You should always try both, because you could be missing something. Like you could try the wet palette and really like it. Yeah, sorry for the sneezies today, guys. My nose is like something. I have my window open, so it's probably like something from out there. Yeah, take on that horse, kitty cat. All right, so when I look at this from a ways away, it actually is pretty convincing. It's actually coming up pretty well. So now it's time to add little pops of, I assume because UK, right? Like they do more police horses. We only had police horses at the county fair when I was growing up in Wisconsin. All right, so I'm going to just use little dots of white. I may have to actually, I just thinned it, but I actually probably should have gone with my gut and kept it a little stronger. I'm going to add 1 drop of white paint back in there. Because I need these to be, I need the paint to be thin enough to come off my brush well in little tiny dots, but I also need it to be strong enough that I can get that punch of light. So here I'm going to concentrate kind of on the very top of each fold, and I like to also make that, if I can, at the crux where different lines meet. To pop that white in there, and I need to get it up above there too. There we go. I'm not a fan of Canada geese. They were a big nuisance where I used to live. And mean. I don't like mean animals. Little bits of white. You can see how that's really helping everything pop out a bit. But you can also see this is pretty slow work. It's pretty painstaking. There we go. That's coming up. Yeah, I told David if one of us ever had to try to take on a Canada goose in a fight, it was all him. I don't want any piece of that. We were talking about this because of the NPR talking about the survey of, you know, could you take an X in a fight, you know, and some people said they couldn't take a rat in a fight, and some people thought they could take, like, a wolf in a fight. Old survey from a couple years ago, I think. Yeah, Karniko, you can tell me that all you want, but I'm still avoiding those suckers. I do not like them. Just not my favorite animal. I'm going to bring out a little bit of detail out here because I don't want to totally lose these little details here in the shadow. I'm going to just bring out just a little. There. Right, yeah. Well, when I was a little kid, I got attacked by a goose, so, you know. It was just going to, like, bite me, but it was still very... It pretty much cemented in my head that geese are mean and nasty, and I don't care to have anything to do with them unless I'm cooking one for New Year's. Getting my revenge that way sounds pretty good. Although I prefer to cook ducks. So usually much as the geese have my enmity, they do not actually get picked for a holiday dinner. Puppy hasn't had duck yet, but pretty soon it'll be holidays and ducks will be available fresh again. And I am all over that. There we go. Look how bright that is now. Shiny. Super shiny. Going to bring up a bit of this highlight and get those kind of all shimmery and shiny, very shimmery and shiny. So I did go up a lot of white here, and I've lost a lot of my midtone, but it is pretty shiny. It still carries this gold. As long as it looks gold, I'm okay with that. If at any point it decided not to look gold, I would have to put a glaze on my rich leather over the top to kind of bring it back that honey color that I've lost a lot of. But it just does make it look like super expensive and shiny gold. So I'm thinking I'm okay with it, even though it is a little overdone. Thanks, David. That's fair enough, yeah. Exactly, right? You have those experiences as a kid, and it's really hard to work through them as an adult, even though you know where it came from, and you know, like, that it's, you know, you could get past this, and it's probably fine. It's still, like, hard. Because it takes work. It takes work to rewire those little kid circuits. And sometimes it's just not worth it. Cats and dogs, same thing. Some dogs are very optimistic. Alright, so now we've got this. And we've got our front guy. Let's back up a bit. I want to kind of look at it. Got our shinies. Shinies are looking pretty okay. I need to tackle his shoulder a bit more. A little bit of a wobble there. So I'll put a little bit darker there, and then I'll get another highlight going on. Kiki thinks she's a human. She's gonna look like a direwolf, but she thinks she's a human. That just means your wandering gene was stronger than your fear of bad experience. Let's see here. I want to wobble there. I need to have this be highlight. I think I'm going to hit another highlight in here. Since I'm presenting a lot of this overlay cloth as more flimsy and presenting a lot of ripples in the surface, I've got to do that down here on the cape as well. We're going to do it. Don't have to, but I will. I'm just going to kind of block that in and see if I like it. Yeah, that works. Yeah, it would be a lot easier if Kiki had a sibling, but we'd also have to socialize and do training on 2 puppies at that point. I can see why people think that 2 are easier. And with kitties, for sure, I think it helps. But man, I'm already like tired just arranging for Kiki's socialization stuff to make sure that she's a good, well-adjusted adult dog. I can't imagine having another one. And we raised our first 2 Shiloh Shepherds, Kiri and Leo. We got Kiri. We got them just 3 months apart. I would never do that again. That was so much work. So much work. And they get so very attached to each other at that point. They don't get along well, huh? Bummer. Yeah, it happens. I mean, some animals just don't like each other. It's just like people. Could have different energy levels or just don't like to play the same way, and happens with dogs too. Happened with our dogs, actually, with Thorn and Leo. And that was that just turned into like the worst situation for everybody. So now, after that, when I kept the last puppy, it was keeping a puppy out of one of Kiri's litters, so I knew that she got along with everybody. There we go. Yeah, that's nice, Bruce. When it works, it's great. It doesn't always work. There we go. Gonna add in a shadow here. Oh, my paint is getting a little thick there now after a long time painting, almost a full hour and a half. So yeah, now that it's cooler out, it takes a lot longer for my paint to evaporate in my palette. We can get a lot more done without having to add water. Oh. That's a bummer, Miss Dim. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go for Kiki's. I don't know if I want to go for Kiki's CGC, or like if I worked at it, I could probably get her CGC before she's a year old. But like, other than bragging rights, I'm just like, I don't know if I have the energy. She's a handful. And although the training school that we're doing our puppy preschool through does offer a CGC and the training leading up to it, I just think Kiki's actually not going to be able to do it till she gets a lot more brain cells. Like, maybe she'll surprise me, but she's just so into play, and she's learned that when she goes to that venue, she plays. So I'm not sure. And she's pretty strong-willed, so... Yeah, Canine Good Citizen Kodiak. It's an AKC thing, I think. I don't remember if it was offered outside of AKC, or if it is totally an AKC thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Dimp. But it's essentially a title that just essentially you work with your dog, and it just says your dog is extremely well trained. There's some pretty challenging things in it, like you putting your dog in a stay with other dogs and you go out of sight, which for a lot of dogs, if you don't have the training, is just like a no. Hey there, Sir Nightheart. Thank you for the Prime sub. 15 months and on a 4-month streak too. Awesome. Thank you. But yeah, so Canine Good Citizen, you have to hit a certain level of obedience training and handler attention, and also being good even when your handler is not in sight. So it's definitely worth getting with your dog. Kiki's, I don't know, Kiki's maturity level. That's the thing. That's what we're going to be kind of looking at as she gets up to the 4 months mark and past it, is how long. If she's going to be the eternal puppy, then I'm going to take a lot longer to get her CGC. Because she really... Sometimes I see some adult brain cells, and sometimes they are totally not in evidence. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank God I don't have to deal with that right now. That's why we got the house. We got the house so Anne could have a dog. And a dog of her choosing. Since a lot of places out here have anti-shepherd codes in the apartments. I actually had to get a statement from my old vet that Curie was not a German Shepherd dog in order to have her in our apartment. And I just don't want to deal with that. Like, that's just... I really hate anti-breed legislation. Like, punishes good owners and doesn't do anything to the bad owners, really. They've already made their mistakes and moved on. That's funny, Agent Marvel. She has no idea we're not spending time with her. Laundry is silly. And in some ways, she's right. Yeah, that's true. I guess that the test for service dogs has similar components, doesn't it? I haven't done a lot of research into that. I'm very interested in some of the stuff they do. The temperament testing for like guide dogs. It's very interesting stuff. And the different things that they look at. Being a dog nerd, this stuff is interesting to me. There we go. Now we got a nice Ripley cape. Oh, well, you got lucky then, Miss Dimp. That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't been able. Actually, I finally got some more crocheting in this past weekend. Like I actually had that since I felt terrible and I couldn't do anything really constructive. I actually sat in our TV room and worked on my crocheting. I have a crochet project to finish before I can take up my knitting again. There we go. We're looking pretty blingful, guys. We're almost done with our bling. I'll be able to finish this sleeve and then we're pretty much set. So we got all of our MM done today. Yeah, pretty much. I can see that the knitting needles would be infinitely play-withable for kittens. Not to mention the yarn. Kiki thinks like balls of yarn are great things to grab and run off with. I might have lost a ball of orange yarn to her. I need to see how many breaks there are in it. She grabbed it and ran off with it. I may have to get another ball before I can do an amigurumi fox. But I have a scarf I want to make first, so. Yeah, yesterday Kiki got to meet one of our neighbors. They have a little, I think it's a Bichon or a Maltese little white dog named Pearl, who is older, but she very nicely offered to have Pearl meet Kiki once Kiki had her vaccinations so she could have a nice meet with a friendly adult dog. That's very nice. I like it when that happens. Although Kiki is much more exuberant than Pearl, so hopefully things go okay. I'm going to have to like make sure that she doesn't hurt the little dog. She can be a little overwhelming. Kiki is like just like high RPM straightforward. At this age anyway. I'm about 80% today, Jesian. Still recovering. And also suffering from allergies. I think it's allergies. I like to think I would be even more tired if it was not allergies. But yeah, I'm progressing. Pretty much I cut out all caffeine, all artificial sweeteners, most sugar, like because I had to have like some stuff just because I couldn't eat anything else. I had to go back on a carby diet for my crap that hit me over the weekend. So now I'm sliding slowly back into where I can eat vegetables and things. There we go. Here we are. Shiny! Shiny. Oh, I feel like we need a little bit more shiny up here. Shiny. More shiny. There we go. Miniature emergency room. But yeah, so yeah, we did. Oh, I missed one spot. Okay, well, we're going to go a little late then. We're going to go a little late. Because there's gold in the middle here. So let's get that figured out. And here, I definitely have this part goes down a fold. So that part goes down a fold. This part's in shadow, so we can do that. A bit more gold. Blend that in. And then I got a shade on the other side. Yeah, exactly. It gets a little overwhelming, Jazzian, when you have to do a lot. I mean, I managed to get most of this. We did this over last in this stream. So, and it's fiddly. It's fiddly work. Fiddly work, but it can look really good. Depends on the mini. And I'm going to put a little bit of white. Mostly, yeah. Agent Marble. You have to thin your highlights a little bit more if you want them to blend, because any paint with white in it is going to have is going to need a little bit more thinning. But yeah, I do most of it's 2 to 1, I'd say. I thin my shadow probably a little bit more, or the thing is, yeah, so on a 2 to 1 thin, the white's going to be a bit thick, and this might be even a little bit thin. But yeah, in general, I think I probably thin a little bit more on these guys. And of course, I'm using a base coat before I do anything, so going with thinner paint really doesn't matter. So yeah, we got some serious bling going on now on our dude. Didn't do the buckles or anything here, but I'll probably do that in silver, and I don't know what I'm going to do the inlay on the bag in yet. But yeah, oh, I did miss one tiny spot. Every time I try to close the stream, I'm just like, nope, sorry. Nope, sorry. Luckily for these little bits, just a touch. Just a little touch helps. Okay. No, it's true. I mean, you need really good brush precision to do filigree. Like you just really do. You need really good brush control. But trying it is gonna, like as you point out, is going to improve it. So, yay! Yep, the carpet salesman is progressing. Yes, he is. But yeah, so now still more stuff to do. I'm still debating whether I want to fill in, like do some gold, like down here on these little parts down here, but we ran out of time, so I'm not going to do it today, which means I might not do it. We'll see. We'll see. As we work through the rest of this, maybe I'll put purple down there instead. But yeah, we got to get back to the purple here, bring that up and work on that next time, and the hat for sure. So next stream will probably be a purple stream. Probably. He's getting there, guys. He's getting really close. I'm going to, like, pretty soon I have to actually think about basing. Yeah, I'm getting better at least. At least there's improvement every day. Knock on particle cork. Oh, tomorrow is Kitty. We were using Reaper super washes to set him up, but I'm going to depart from that now and begin working on him in general. So I haven't decided if I want his fur to be buff or gray. I'm kind of, he was a necromancer. Maybe we'll do gray, except that I feel like buff would go better with the color scheme. Yeah, so I'm still thinking about what color I want him to be. But yes, thanks guys, thanks everybody for tuning in, and yeah, hopefully I will be even more sprightly Anne tomorrow. We'll see how bad the puppy gets me today. But yes, we'll be working on Kitty tomorrow. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.